Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. You just heard it. I'm Ray Flowers. You just heard that too. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it here on the show. We're with you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all day. Not all day. All week long is the right way to say that. Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We go about an hour each day. You then have about an hour break. And then from 2 to 5 Eastern over on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio is the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Manns. So I really encourage everyone to check that out after they check out this. So you actually get 4 hours. And then you get live streams over at the side and all this kind of extra stuff. Lots of opportunity to hear us, to get our advice, to help you win in fantasy sports here in 2025. Follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places at The Ray Flowers. I'm in Discord all the time answering questions. Behind the scenes, writing baseball articles. We talked about that on the Elite Sports Show yesterday. I'm with Jeff on Wednesdays on SiriusXM. Might be adding to that. We'll see moving forward. I'm not promising anything, but we'll see. But right now I'm here with you 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesdays, and with Jeff on his show. We talked yesterday. I think I said it's either 13 or 14 articles for the baseball guide. I'm working behind the scenes on that. Obviously still cranking out things on football. My matchup article, looking at every matchup this week, goes up Thursday mornings. It just went up about an hour ago. My Coffin Corner piece where I look at the numbers, that goes up on Friday. And you know how things go here. Let me throw up on the screen what we're talking about today. There it is. And you look at that purple part in the middle. We did it again. Did it again. Did it again. Look who's back. Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Shady's back. Okay, so I'll stop. We lowered the price on our all-in football package for the rest of the season. It's now $49.99 for the rest of the way. Remember, this gets you all the college football and all the NFL football. All the football. Live streams, Discord access, articles, rankings, every projections, everything you could possibly hope for DFS, seasonal, and betting. So basically everything we do, no matter what it is for football, the only thing you won't get is the access to the betting guide for the World Super Bowl. That's always the one separate thing we sell for football. But right now, $49.99 the rest of the way. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com, and get the football package. All college football, all NFL, the rest of the way, betting, all of it, seasonal, all of it, DFS, all of it. You can also see that on the screen. We're going to talk some injuries here to start off the show here. I'll spend the first half of the show basically talking about injuries and the scenarios that are playing out here in Week 15 is the first week of the playoffs for most people. We'll then visit with Armando Marsal. It changes things up a little bit. If you've been with us all week, you know that we had Tyler Beaker, who's normally on Thursdays, on Tuesday. Armando Marsal is normally on Tuesday, is joining us today. So they just flip-flop this week. We'll talk storylines with Armando Marsal, Jordan Love, JJ McCarthy. What are we doing here? Difficult matchup, great matchup. Ashton, Jeanty, TreVeyon, Henderson, Woody Marks, Tony Pollard, went for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. DeVonta Smith, and then the tight end duo against the Bengals of Andrews and Likely. And we'll also talk some Thursday night football between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Remember, you can follow us. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page to find all the shows that we have, all the podcasts that we have, I should say, on the Elite Sports Network, including this one. So Elite Plus tab at the top over at fantasyguru.com. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily, whether you're on Pandora or Spotify or YouTube Music or even Apple Podcasts, iTunes. So check us out there, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. And then the 3 places you can watch live, leave comments, questions, all that kind of good stuff. Those 3 places are youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. And we see from Marty here, thank you for all the insight you and Jeff provide. Made the playoffs in all 3 leagues. Marty, we'd love to see that. Great to hear. It's great news. And, happy that we could lend a hand, as we just talked about. Anyone who wants a hand helping in the seasonal aspect the rest of the way, or you want to get involved in DFS because things haven't gone the way you anticipated, or you want to make a few extra bucks on the betting side, remember, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. $50 the rest of the way for the football package. Before we dive into what we see on the screen, there are a couple of things I want to address. Number one, it's Thursday. With me, everybody. Okay. Take a deep breath. Take another one. Atlanta and Tampa Bay play tonight. And again, we'll talk to Armando Marsal about that in about half an hour. Actually, it'll be closer to 40 minutes when we have that part of the discussion. But there's two teams playing Atlanta and Tampa Bay. It's Thursday morning. Everyone needs to take a breath. I get it. It's the first week of the playoffs. You're amped up. You're excited. You want to go. No one should be setting lineups today for the week unless you're having Falcons or Bucks that the question's about. Period. I'm not trying to be obnoxious. Rich Miletto's not trying to be obnoxious. The staff's not trying to be obnoxious in Discord. The whole point is it's Thursday morning. We don't have the information to give you the right answer. We talk about this a lot here on the show. Just a refresher, because I was in Discord this morning and question. If you have Falcons or Bucks, of course you should be setting your lineup and asking questions about how you set that lineup. If you don't have Falcons or Bucks, why are you asking questions about Sunday? We don't even know who starting quarterbacks are for multiple teams right now. We don't know. We don't know the injury and health scenarios. We're going to talk about, look at all those guys that are injured. We don't even know if they're playing. And we only talk about the offensive side of things, because obviously we only play the offense. The majority of people don't play IDP leagues. But then there's the IDP side of things and the health of those players too. So please, everyone, do yourself a favor. If you're setting your weekly lineup on a Thursday morning, you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it wrong. And we've been saying this. I've been saying this for years. Just a refresher. I know it's 15. It's fantasy playoffs. I get it. But I can't give you an answer. I don't know if CeeDee Lamb's going to play. I don't know if Marvin Harrison's going to play. I don't know who the Jets quarterback is going to be. I don't know who the Colts quarterback is going to be. I can't answer these questions. I don't know who. So please have some patience. Number one, because it behooves you to have patience. Number two, the opportunity for me to give you the best answer, I need the best data to have to give you that answer. And we're not going to get it until Friday afternoon at the earliest, right? After we get all the injury reports, all the practice reports for the week. That's why Jeff Mans goes in Friday night late and updates the rankings, because that's the right time for it. So be cautious with that. Secondly, when it comes to the rankings, and we addressed this on the show yesterday with Jeff on the Elite Sports Show, again, 2 to 5, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We addressed it there. It's been addressed in Discord. It's been addressed on social media, and it's been addressed here, but I will reiterate one more time. The rankings are the answer. Period. Full stop. That's it. Jeff will go on the show and say, I really like the matchup, and he did this. I really like the Ricky Pearsall matchup this week. Okay. Number one, that can be true, and Jeff can still not have Ricky Pearsall ranked wide receiver 23, because he doesn't. Number two, Jeff, you don't never have to ask Jeff a question of what do you think about a player, because the rankings are done by Jeff. Number three, as we just discussed, the rankings get updated after we have all the practice reports on Friday night, which is another reason why setting lineups now, if they don't involve the Thursday game, don't do any good. Number four, Jeff can be a player, which he is, like a Ricky Pierce against the Titans and everything. Look at the rankings. Where is Ricky Pearsall ranked? Does he have Ricky Pearsall in the top 20? Does he have him in the top 30? Should you be vaulting Ricky Pearsall and putting him in your starting lineup because Jeff said some nice things about him on the show yesterday, even though he's not ranked in the top 30? No. Follow the rankings. It's really interesting to me how this has gotten to be an issue. I saw another comment here on social media right before the show started. Another person asked, the rankings are done by Jeff, number one. Number two, the rankings are the answer. Full stop. That's it. And number three, again, you should only be using the rankings right now to set lineups for Falcons and Bucks. Hope that all makes sense. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk some situations here. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be for certain with the Raiders. I guess there's still a chance that Geno Smith plays, but Kenny Pickett's going to start this week for the Raiders. Jack Besh, we talked about this on Monday. Jack Besh saw 4 of his 6 targets from Kenny Pickett. For those of you in DFS, shoot for the moon. If you're in a seasonal aspect, you're in the playoffs, you can't play Jack Besh. Right? You can't. I mean, if you are, more power to you, but that's not something I will support. But there did seem to be a connection between those two guys. I've seen some people worried about the Raiders offense because Kenny Pickett instead of Geno Smith. Is Kenny Pickett really worse than Geno Smith? No. Geno Smith has played like ass for 2 months. Maybe 3 months. Actually, take out week 1. Geno Smith has basically played like ass all season. Kenny Pickett's no worse. He's not. And I don't think this changes anything appreciably at all. So Kenny Pickett's in there. Same concerns with the Raiders. Same situation with the Raiders. It's an offense that's going to struggle. It's an offense that's not going to produce first downs, blah, 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 blah. But the Kenny Pickett addition, if anything, honestly, it might be a benefit because at least it's new blood. It's new eyeballs seeing the playbook all week, new eyeballs seeing the field. What Geno Smith was doing wasn't working. And if he didn't have that 3-year contract they gave him in the offseason and his head coach wasn't the same guy who was his coach in Seattle, I bet they would have made a switch to Kenny Pickett a while ago anyway. So Kenny Pickett should be starting this week for the Raiders. Kenny Pickett is not a usable fantasy asset unless you're in a 2 QB Superflex league. Obviously, in a 1 QB league, who the hell cares? Moving on next, the Commanders have made the decision, kind of. Well, they made the decision that Marcus Mariota is going to start this week. So Mariota is the starter this week. Does that mean that Jayden Daniels' season is over? No, they have not said as of now that Jayden Daniels' season is over. As we expected here on the show, as we discussed on Monday, we didn't expect Jayden Daniels to play this week. I don't know if he plays again this season. I don't know why they'd play him again this season. We've talked about this on the show. But Mariota's the guy this week. Mariota, for me, is a top 15 quarterback. He's right on the edge. He's 15th. He's right on the edge. Is it a scenario where, is it a scenario where I'm killing myself to get him in the lineup? And the answer is absolutely 100% no. But the fact is that he's got a good matchup against the Giants. The Giants are not a good defense. And if you look at the last 5 games, they've allowed 10 touchdown passes to the quarterback. They've only intercepted 1 pass, and they're giving up the 8th most points a game in the last 6 weeks to the quarterback position. So it's a very good matchup for Mariota. And as we've seen, he can use his arms, he can use his legs, that kind of thing. So Mariota is in play. He's a high-end QB2. He's in play this week. Next up, the Jets. We don't know who the Jets quarterback is going to be. Tyrod Taylor has the groin injury. He didn't practice yesterday. Justin Fields has the knee injury. He didn't practice yesterday. It appears Brady Cook will be the quarterback this week. At the same time, we don't have an answer. We did hear from Aaron Glenn yesterday that the expectation is first-team practice reps this week will go to Brady Cook. It's a pretty good sign that Brady Cook will be the starter at quarterback for the Jets. We, again, have to follow this information closely. This is another one of those scenarios. We'll talk about Trey Benson briefly here at the end. With Justin Fields, this is another scenario. It's like, man, Justin Fields gets hurt in practice and doesn't get his chance. Justin Fields kind of cursed, I will say it. Been with bad organizations, been given spotty offensive play callers, been given spotty weapons to utilize around him, and it just keeps going. And we can blame him for the mistakes and the issues and the foibles that he has, and he does have them. But he's never, guy got benched last year when he was 5-1 with the Steelers, right? But anyway, it looks like Brady Cook is going to be the quarterback, not defined, not certain. I think it's positive news for Mason Taylor and kind of dirty news for everyone else. So you don't really want to be playing Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie either. Mechie over Mitchell probably makes more sense if Cook is the quarterback. But again, really dicey. Don't want to be playing these guys here in the first week of the playoffs. Let's move to the Vikings. TJ Hockenson didn't practice yesterday with a shin injury. I don't know when the shin injury happened. It wasn't listed after the game. It wasn't talked about after the game. So I'm not really sure here. Remember, Josh Oliver scored twice last week. Josh Oliver would be the option where Hockenson be unable to play this week. Does it matter? And the answer is no. Hockenson's been catching 2 or 3 passes. We've seen that. Oliver scored 2 touchdowns. Who the hell cares? That's ridiculous. He's not that guy. He won't be that guy. He's never been that guy, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to be starting the tight end of the Vikings unless you really have no choice. As of right now, let's see, where do we have? Yeah, we've got Hockenson ranked 20th for the week. And Oliver's not going to be ranked higher than that. So yeah, you just don't want to be utilizing this position. Sorry, just a no-go. Next up, what do we got next up? His teammate, Jordan Addison, as I'm clicking on screens all over the place. Jordan Addison has an Achilles injury. He practiced in limited fashion yesterday, but was listed with an Achilles injury. As we've discussed many times, Achilles injuries are rarely minor. You rarely tweak your Achilles and you're okay, right? So, hugely important to follow this the next couple of days. It's another reason why setting a lineup on a Thursday morning. Because right now, if you had to say, am I starting Jordan Addison this week? The answer is 100% no. Maybe he gets a full practice today. Maybe it's a full practice tomorrow, and then we can change our opinion. But an Achilles injury that we didn't know about prior to practice and limited practice on a Wednesday, it's not looking good right now for Jordan Addison. Jalen Naylor would be the guy, obviously, that would be looked at as the number 2 behind Jefferson, if that would be the way it plays out. McCarthy did play his best football game last week, It's a marvelous matchup. We'll talk more about this with Armando and Marsal. It's a marvelous matchup against the Cowboys. Is it a good enough matchup to be interested in Vikings players again? Armando and Marsal in about 15 minutes. We'll start to talk about that. Odunze's got a foot injury. He missed last week with the foot injury. We know that. Limited at practice yesterday. We'll see. And this is another thing we're talking about here. Like, do we go Luther Burden? Luther Burden without Odunze, thumbs up. Odunze back on the field, Luther Burden, nah. So hugely important to watch how this goes. DJ Moore, we've talked about more. We talked about him this week, right? It's like, what the hell happened? It's just not. So it's really Odunze or Burden that we're looking at here. It's really one of the two. Difficult to feel super good about both guys. We'll see. But Odunze did not start off the week great, but being a limited participant, okay. Better, because he didn't practice last week at all. So we're moving in the right direction with Odunze, but we still need a lot more information here before we come to a conclusion. Marvin Harrison, barring a catastrophic injury that he hasn't had, Marvin Harrison's first 2 years in the league have not met expectations. Now, part of that, as I have argued, as you all know, I think is Kyler Murray. We've got Jacoby Brissett, and so Harvison's got an opportunity now because Brissett is literally throwing the ball 40 times every week. Got a chance for Marvin Harrison to really establish himself, and he can't get out on the damn field. He's got a heel injury right now. Didn't play last week, as we're all aware. Didn't practice yesterday. So he starts off the week on an absolutely negative position, right? Here's the situation, and we said this yesterday. It's like at this point, Michael Wilson is basically, Jeff and I said this yesterday, Michael Wilson's basically matchup proof at this point. And that's usually reserved for the Amon-Ra St. Browns of the world. The reason I say that, and said it yesterday on Jeff's show, is that in, 15 targets, 3 of the last 4 games? Let me open up Michael Wilson here real quickly. I think it's 15 is the number. 18, 15, 16. And 7 in the one down effort. In 3 of the last 4 games, he's seen at least 15 targets, which is insanity. Remember, he's getting 15 targets a game, and Jacoby Brissett is throwing the ball 40 times a game. It's just happening week after week after week. Harrison is uncertain to play this week. Weaver's uncertain to play this week. He didn't play last week. Dortch has been placed on the injury list. Zay Jones is on the injury list. Sammy Faco has been on the injury list. Like, they've got no receivers. Right now, the top 3 receivers on this team, are Michael Wilson, Andre Basilia, and Xavier Weaver. Like, oh my gosh. Like, and remember, this team is throwing the ball 40 times a week, every single week. So Michael Wilson's basically matchup proof. I think he's still a starting option, even if Harrison plays. But without Harrison on the field, it's insane to think 15 targets is incoming, but he's getting the Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase treatment every single week. Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb. We don't know if CeeDee Lamb is going to play. He's got the concussion. Players traditionally aren't activated the week after they suffered a concussion. The benefit here for Lamb is that he's got 3 extra days because it was a Thursday night game where he was hurt. So he's moving in the right direction. Schottenheimer, the head coach, said he has 2 more hurdles to clear, but he was at practice, so he was around the team yesterday. It sounds like he's trending in the direction of playing this week. The next couple of days, obviously, we have to follow the reports and all that. It'll be everywhere, so it won't be something we'll be left guessing on. I'm anticipating him playing. That's my anticipation. Again, head injuries, you never know. He could wake up today feeling like ass and miss the rest of the season, right? So have to keep our eyes on the news here, but I'm anticipating that CeeDee Lamb will be playing this week. So the question then becomes, who's Ryan Flournoy? Everyone's run the waivers right now, right? Like, no one has waivers tonight or anything like that. So Flournoy was added. Someone added, that kind of thing. Flournoy is not, NOT, usable if Lamb is active. He's just not. Especially in the fantasy playoffs. We're not, even with as good as the passing attack is with the Cowboys, we're not using a third wide receiver on a team in the fantasy playoffs. No. If Lamb is out, we saw last week Flournoy step in and do a very good impersonation of CeeDee Lamb. He had 100 yards receiving, right? Flournoy would be in the mix to be a starting option this week. Now, again, the answer with whether he starts in fantasy is based upon your team, right? Like, if it's Ricky Pearsall, if it's Justin Jefferson, no, right? So it depends. So Flournoy is somebody that hopefully this is one of the rare instances where I would have said, and it was asked, would you handcuff CeeDee Lamb with Flournoy? It's like, well, yeah, I think I would in this scenario. Now, Flournoy, again, was the caution I gave everyone on the waiver wire part of this, is that you add Flournoy, you may never play him, right? Like if Lamb is active again, we're not playing Flournoy. If Lamb is active this week, he's probably going to be okay. Again, right? I don't really believe in handcuffing wide receivers. I think that's kind of crazy, to be honest. But in this specific scenario, because of the productivity of the offense, because of the role Flournoy would fill if Lamb was out, I can give a thumbs up to doing it. If Lamb goes out and plays this week, right, as expected, Flournoy, you can release him next week. So it is what it is with Flournoy, but we'll continue to follow that storyline. Drake London, it was announced, at least it's early in the week, that he won't be playing tonight against the Bucs for the Falcons. Again, we'll talk more about this game between the Falcons and the Bucs with Armando and Marsal in a few minutes. Knee injury for London. He's not going to play this week. He suffered a strained PCL in week 11. We're to that point where it's like, look, the Falcons are going nowhere. They're doing nothing. It's kind of much like Garrett Wilson with the Jets, right? These two players. You had Wilson in London and you're rocking and rolling, man. Things were great at the start of the season. Halfway through the year, a little bit of a bobble there, but then injuries, and then it's just a disaster. London and Wilson, neither one may play again in 2025. That's a possibility for both players. London is Wilson was placed on the IR, so at least London hasn't been placed on the IR. Not really sure what teams are doing when they make a move or don't make a move like this. Being the fact that he was ruled out on a Wednesday, and again, the game's Thursday, but he was ruled out on a Wednesday, not even to game day. Have to think week 16. Week 16, again, he was hurt in week 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, we're already at 4 weeks here, right? So if he goes into week 16, why didn't they place him on the IR? I don't know. Yeah. So the feasibility of holding either London or Wilson really comes down to your league setup and do you have an IR spot or not? You have an IR spot, you just throw Wilson on the IR, cool. London's not on the IR, right? And that's the real issue here. He's just taking up a roster spot. That's tough, especially as we get here into the fantasy playoffs and some people are trying to block opponents and you're trying to give yourself depth. So that's a very specific one, and it's a difficult question to answer because, again, if London's back out on the field, he's getting 8+ targets a week. We've seen it forever. I just don't know if he's going to get back out there. Good news, Kyle Pitts is dealing with the knee injury. He's practicing, so it looks like he'll play, and he's been their number one receiver the last couple of weeks, and there's really no reason to think that's going to appreciably change here in the matchup tonight. T. Higgins, we talked about this, Jeff and I did yesterday on the show. I don't understand what's going on here. T. Higgins had a concussion, missed a game, came back, hit his head on the turf last week, was checked for a concussion. They didn't find it during game day. On Monday, he was having concussion-like symptoms, all this kind of stuff. And Jeff said it something very similar to what I'm about to say on the show yesterday. It would be irresponsible for the Bengals to play him. And I totally agree. Bengals are not making the playoffs. They're going nowhere. It's not happening. No matter how many times you read national stories about how they have a chance, they're done. Okay. He just had a concussion. He then returned and hit his head again and was checked for a concussion. What are we doing? Why was he at practice yesterday? What are we doing? It's a brain injury. It's not a twisted ankle. It's not a tweaked knee and a messed up elbow. It's his brain. He shouldn't play this week, period. And you can make the case and make the argument legitimately he shouldn't play again this season. I hope he doesn't play this week for his personal health. We'll continue to monitor this, but despite what we saw yesterday and what we heard yesterday, I'm still not expecting him to play. Andre Yosavash would be the guy that would step up. Michael Tinsley is also a player in the mix. Jeff talked about him yesterday on the show. So look for Michael Tinsley and Yosavash to ascend the rankings that are updated on Friday night if we get the answer, which we should, of T. Higgins not playing this week. Tracy, there's some concerns about where he's at with the hip injury. Practiced fully yesterday. So the hope of, hey, let's get Devin Singletary out there and get him 18 touches this week, still a possibility because the Giants do run the ball quite a bit, right? They don't throw it a ton. But Singletary is no longer a slam bang start. Tracy almost certainly will play this week. So we'll see. Against the Commanders, you pull up the Commanders information. I have it right here. Let's pull it up. Against the Commanders, the last 6 weeks, they've allowed the 4th most points to the running back. That includes over 5 yards a carry. It includes 7 touchdowns in just 5 games. Obviously, it's a good matchup. So good news to hear Tracy's back. For those of you that have Tracy, for those of you that have Singletary, Maybe not. Next up, Chris Rodriguez. Speaking of the Commanders, Chris Rodriguez has taken over the lead role with the Commanders in the backfield. Usually it's 10 carries for 50 yards. If he gets in the end zone, great. If he doesn't get in the end zone, it's 10 carries for 50 yards. Kind of in that Blake Corum zone of who the hell cares for the majority of the season. But trending in the right direction. JCM is starting to see his role reduce. McNichols, is only being used on third down, never really touches the football. So it's Chris Rodriguez. Yay. Well, he didn't practice yesterday because of a groin issue. Ugh. Could be just maintenance. It's a long season. We're getting late in the year. Maybe he's back out there and a full participant today and everything's good to go. But as of right now, Jacory Krosky Merritt, Bill, JCM, this is where we're at right now. That's the way things are looking. You look at the Giants. Guess who allows the most points to the running back the last 6 weeks? The Giants. So this is hugely important. Chris Rodriguez, who the hell cares? All right, he's my 5th running back. Like, if he's out there and healthy, the Giants, the last 5 games, have allowed 9 touchdowns to the running back and 6.1 yards a carry, which is insane. The Giants are hemorrhaging to the running back. So that is a situation to monitor closely. For those of you that have Rodriguez, hopefully have JCM. For those of you that aren't involved with the Commanders because who the hell cares, and JCM is on the waiver wire, might consider adding him, even if you don't use him, just to block your opponent this week. As of right now, 2 guys in the backfield, Saints, both of them dealing with injury. Alvin Kamara did not practice on Wednesday. Obviously, he's been missing games with his knee-ankle issue. At this point, not expecting him to play this week against the Panthers. We'll see how that goes. There's always a chance, of course, but I'm not anticipating Kamara playing. I'm anticipating Devin Neal being the guy getting the 18 touches as he has the last 2 weeks. Well, he popped up on the injury report yesterday with an abdomen issue. Yeah. So probably, again, wear and tear, probably not a big deal. Didn't see a lot of the beat writers doom and gloom with Devin Neal, but it's really important to follow these injury practice reports, the next couple of days. Because, and someone asked me this, and I tongue-in-cheek kind of said it in Discord. Someone said, I'm in a deep league. If Kamara and Neal don't play, is Whole or Estime the addition? And my answer in Discord, and it's going to be the same thing I say here, is no, neither. We're moving on. Like, even using Devin Neal is, we're getting those 17, 18 touches for 71 yards. It's not like we're getting a lot, right? He's either getting that touchdown and you're happy, or he's not getting the touchdown. It's like, we're not going to Evan Hull or Audric Estime in this offense. So if it comes to that, no, just pass. But I think there's still an opportunity for Neal to play this week, and hopefully that'll be the case. We'll get that updated information today. A few more minutes here before we talk to Armando Marsal. Dawson Knox has got a personal issue. Excuse me. Didn't practice yesterday. Unclear if he's going to play this week. Doesn't really matter because you only want to play Dawson Knox anyway, even though Nix, Hawes, and Kincaid all did things last week. Kincaid obviously is the guy. Excuse me. Did you want to play? Excuse me. Is there? Kincaid's the guy you obviously want to play, but keep an eye on things with Knox, whether he returns from the personal issue or not, because it may signify a couple extra targets to Kincaid. Maybe. Kincaid oftentimes, plays 24 snaps, runs 21 routes, and catches 4 passes anyway. Finally, Trey Benson, it is official. He will not be activated from the injured reserve list. One of the most disappointing seasons this year, in my opinion, was Trey Benson. He had the opportunity to take over the backfield early for the Cardinals, as we've discussed here on the show many times. When James Conner went down with injury, he never was able to do that. He basically played 1 week, and that was it. He got hurt. Clearly had a setback in practice. So the 21-day window that they opened has expired, meaning his season is over. So it's the Bam night, Michael Carter, DeMarcado experience the rest of the way, which is probably another reason why you can feel confident that the 40 passes a week thing that the Cardinals have been doing since Jacoby Brissett took over will probably continue. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com, here with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. On those Wednesdays, it's usually Justin Fensterman and Rich Miletto. And normally on Tuesdays, Armando Marsal visits. Normally Thursdays is Tyler Beaker. We're switching things up this week. Tyler and Armando did a flip-flop. So for those of you that saw the show Tuesday, you already saw Tyler. For those of you that didn't see the show, Tyler was on Tuesday. But it's a Thursday now, and it's time for Armando Marsal. So our guy, Armando Marsal. So instead of talking waiver wires, we're talking more stardom, sit-em, confidence level kind of stuff with Armando before we preview Thursday Night Football. Armando Marsal of FantasyGuru.com. Armando, you're small. You're not. You're big. Here we go.
How's it going, Ray? Happy to be on talking some football with you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you switching your schedule up. You know, this is what teammates do, right? That's what you and Tyler work things out. So the listeners and I greatly appreciate that. Okay, weird being on a Thursday. I mean, we've been doing the Tuesday thing for a long time now.
It's fine. I figure we're going to be talking different topics today. It's a different part of the week, right? Early in the week, we're looking at focusing on roster management and waivers, like you said. Now it's Thursday. We can focus on Thursday night's game and kind of some of the headlines, heading into the weekend. Some of this tough decisions. A lot of fantasy playoffs start this week. So a lot of tough decisions to be made for sure.
Yeah, let's start out with we'll talk about two quarterbacks, just two guys I highlighted. First one is Jordan Love. Jordan Love, he's played some pretty good football this year. There's been some nice games this year. But then you see Denver on the schedule. And it's not like, Love is a top 10 quarterback and he's locked in your lineup every week. And, okay. In a 14-team league, he might be your starter. Where are we at with him in this matchup with Denver? Is it scary enough that you'd be going like the Marcus Mariota kind of route? Or do you still have enough confidence in Love that you could still start him this week?
So I'm viewing him as a mid-level QB2 with QB1 upside, right? Like you mentioned, he's played well the last couple of games, but it's again to beat up Detroit defense and against Chicago that their secondary is also dinged up and they've had some injuries there as well. Two defenses have been fruitful to pass against here in recent weeks. This is a much tougher defense. You look at Denver; they're allowing just 219 passing yards per game, a 58% completion rate, third lowest in the NFL right now. 13 passing touchdowns, tied for third fewest. So, yeah, he's been playing well, but we've also seen some erratic play with Love throughout the season. And I think this is one of those games where you got two really good defenses. It's probably going to be very cold this weekend there. The game's in Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So it's probably going to be very cold there in Denver, regardless of where that's going to be cold. And I just don't see a fast-paced game between these two. So I'm tempering expectations with Love. In the two-quarterback league, you're rolling him out as your QB2 because there's that QB1 upside. But in a QB1 league where, there might be other options, I'm still going to be starting him over Mariota, I think. But I am tempering expectations with Love this weekend.
I hesitate to ask this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Let's do it.
JJ McCarthy, who's played bad this year.
Very.
Looked pretty good last week. Faces a matchup with the Cowboys, who are pretty bad this week. Against the quarterback here the last 6 weeks, they've allowed 9 touchdown passes, only 1 pick, 4th most points a game to the quarterback position. We know that they can be beat through the air. We talked earlier in the show today already, though, about the fact that Addison's missing practice time yesterday with an Achilles. Hawkinson's missing practice time, so that plays into this too. But in what scenario, if any, would you start JJ McCarthy? Because again, he looked good last week, and it's a great matchup this week.
So only in two quarterback formats, right? Like that's the only place I'm considering McCarthy this week. I view him as a low end QB2, right? Look, he did well last week. He played his best football game of his career, really. But like you mentioned, the Dallas does allow production through the air, but they also pressure the quarterback at a high rate. And McCarthy has struggled immensely under pressure. So here's some of the numbers. We didn't see Washington pressure him that last week at all. So I think that's something we should note here. But when you look at Dallas, they're 11th in pass rush. They lead the NFL in QB pressures, a 32.2 pressure rate with QB dropbacks this season. They lead the NFL in QB knockdowns. They lead the NFL in QB hurries. I think it's going to be a tough day in the office for McCarthy this week. I'm tempering expectations. I'm not expecting another big performance out of him. I think he's going to have he's going to be facing much more pressure this week. I think he's going to make maybe sillier decisions. And this is one of those weeks where you look at Dallas's defense, you're like, streaming option because of that. Maybe in DFS, maybe not season longs, but in DFS, maybe something to consider. But yes, I do have some reservations with McCarthy. Again, I still am very optimistic about his future outlook and the long-term outlook for McCarthy. I like what I saw last week, but I do think this is going to be a tough environment. It's going to be a very different look than when he saw last week.
Armando Marsal, FantasyGuru.com, joining us on a Thursday. Is normally Tuesday, so he'll be back in a few days. He'll be back next Tuesday. Ashton Jeanty, change of quarterback to Kenny Pickett this week. Matchup against Philadelphia. You and I have talked Jeanty before, and it's like, yeah, okay. We got to get away from July. It's no longer July, right? We're in the season now. Jeanty's not been great, but he's been fine. He's been totally usable. He's obviously a top 20 running back right now. Confidence level in starting him this week against the Eagles.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most confident.
Sounds good.
Probably 5.
Okay.
Not that confident.
Right.
Like the Eagles you can run against the Eagles. They've given up some production to the running back. I think they're giving up over 100 rushing yards per game to the actual position. But there are a couple of things that concern me. The offensive line is a disaster in Las Vegas, right? We're often seeing him hit behind the line of scrimmage, so he's not really getting any room to run. This is a tough front seven in Philadelphia. So, and then I expect that the Eagles to be playing with a lead. So I think the path to production for Jeanty is going to be through his role in the passing game. But we've seen that he's been involved in recent games. Only 3 targets last week. That was a little bit concerning for me. But again, like you said, we're not viewing him as an RB1, right? We're viewing him as an RB2, and you're kind of temper expectations in this kind of matchup and this kind of game setting. So not overly confident, but I have him in my home league. I'm going to be rolling him out in the first round of the playoffs. Am I excited about it? No, but I'm going to just chase the opportunities and volumes. Yeah, I rather start him over someone we're going to talk about soon that I also have on my roster that I don't want to start.
And remember, everybody, that Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle of the Eagles, he had shoulders operated on, and he's uncertain to play this week. I don't know. He's probably not going to play this week is my guess. And that would be a big benefit as well to Ashton, Jeanty, Armando, Marsal of fantasyguru.com. TreVeyon Henderson, was he the guy you were talking about? I don't know. Could be another guy. Okay. Could be another guy.
He would easily be started. I would confidently start Henderson over Jeanty this week.
Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing. The Bills' run defense is not good. Like, we know that. They've given up 9 touchdowns the last 6 games of the running back position. We okay. The question really, I don't think, is about, do we start Henderson? Because I think most people are starting Henderson. It's, what are the expectations? Because we've seen this all year long. They want to have Stevenson involved. Stevenson's going to be involved. Stevenson plays more snaps frequently. He often touches the ball as much. He runs more routes than Henderson. You don't really want to start Henderson hoping he has a 50-yard touchdown run. But that seems to be the only way he's going to really pay off versus just be fine for you in the backfield.
Yeah, so the big thing for me, right, where before the bye week, if you were looking closely at these numbers, and I wrote this in the snap and usage breakdown that I do each and every week, they really went with a full-blown committee with Stevenson and Henderson that game. 58% snap share for Stevenson, like you mentioned. Henderson, 49% snap share. Each of them had 15 opportunities. So identical number of opportunities. That's the one concern for me. I'm still starting Henderson as a high-end QB2 with RB1, RB2 with RB1 upside here. I think floor is 15 opportunities here. I think they're going to want to keep the Bills offense off the field. I think they're going to be utilizing these 2 running backs. They have the defense to do so. So I have a confidence level probably about 7-8 with Henderson. I'm going to be starting him. Like I mentioned, I would start him ahead of Jeanty here. And I would even venture to say, someone like Stevenson could be a borderline RB3/flex play too in some situations. So keep that in mind, because you mentioned that this is a really bad run defense by Buffalo. They're 6th most rushing yards to the running back, league high 16 rushing touchdown, 7th in fantasy points per game allowed, 27th in rush defense, 29th in tackling. Run all over this defense. You target it that way, and I think the New England Patriots are going to be successful doing so, using both running backs here this week.
Speaking of the running backs, we just got an update this morning that Packers head coach Matt LaFleur says it's more than likely, that Josh Jacobs will not practice today. So he's been dealing with this. He's been dealing with the leg. So I don't know. Hopefully you didn't drop Wilson, which I know a lot of people did. If you had Jacobs, if you have Jacobs and Wilson's on the waiver wire, immediately run and get Wilson. Too early in the week to know for certain, but more than likely not practicing. Yeah, so keep an eye on how things are going there in the backfield with Josh Jacobs. And Devon Achane, according to his head coach, will be limited at practice, I think, in opposition to Jacobs where there's concern. I'm not personally concerned. I think Achane plays this week. What about you, Armando?
I think he plays this week, but he's dinged up. So I would not, just because he plays this week, and I kind of wanted to comment on what you said about Wilson, but just because these players go back into action doesn't mean you drop the backup running back, especially the stash of second defense for week 16, ladies and gentlemen. We don't do that here, all right? But because if there is a setback, if there's something, you know exactly where the football is going, and you're going to have that player on your bench. You don't have to add, you don't have to fight with anyone. So that's why I always strongly recommend hold these kind of players when you know the definite role here.
Marsal of FG. Now, here's the player let's talk about who I think is the one you're not sure about. Armando, this guy played 95% of the snaps last week, had 95% of the touches, got You've never seen a guy more stolen for a touchdown than Woody Marks last week. Dario Ogunbowale played one snap. He came in for one snap in relief of Woody Marks, got a touchdown. Woody Marks is touching it 20 times a week. We don't know if Nick Chubb is even going to play this week. Dario Ogunbowale clearly is not taking work away from him. The Cardinals get smashed, or have been at least recently, allowing 10 touchdowns the last 6 games to the running back, allowing 5.4 yards to carry the last 6 games to the running back. Everything says Woody Marks to the moon, but you're not buying it.
Well, I'm viewing him as a low-end RB2. He's right under Jeanty for me, but this is a great matchup. You mentioned it. Like, the thing is, the opportunities have been there. The production has not followed in every game. So he has 17, 19, 17, 20, 29 last week, like you mentioned, opportunities. Yes. But the production and the PPR numbers are RB11, RB42, RB32, RB42, RB14. Look, I'm going to treat him as an low-end RB2, and I know that there's going to be upside. I like the idea of chasing the opportunities here. But Jeanty's also getting significant opportunities. So it's not like you're going for someone in the committee and then, not playing Woody Marks here. You mentioned the numbers here, Ray, like Arizona, 28th in rush defense, 32nd in tackling, giving up 4.8 yards per carry on the season, tied for 3rd most rushing touchdowns. Like, all the boxes check off. I'm going to play, my confidence level probably is 6-7 when it comes to the Woody Marks. But I'm okay with playing him this week. If you're between him and Jeanty, I think you slightly lean Jeanty. But I don't think it's an absurd question. I don't think it's an absurd decision that you're trying to make here. I do think it's a very valid one if you're choosing between these two. And if you have the option of putting Woody Marks in your flex this week, I would definitely do so. The Texans should be playing with a favorable lead here. I think they're a far superior team than the Arizona Cardinals. So I could see them, lean on him here very much, but that doesn't always lead to production. So we have to remember that when it comes to Woody Marks.
Yeah, Woody Marks, I don't know. I'm not looking at the numbers. 19 touches a week for 71 yards. Like, he's, like you said, the volume is big, but there just hasn't been a lot of production. But I do agree with Armando's positioning of Marks this week. There have been a lot of performances this year, Armando, that have been surprising. Week to week, month to month, player to player, season long, 1 week only kind of thing. 160 yards and 2 touchdowns from Tony Pollard out of nowhere. And we know how this goes. People love to chase points. He didn't run for 81 yards and a score. He ran for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, it was a banging effort, which makes it even more intriguing to consider starting Tony Pollard this week. Under what scenario would you start Tony Pollard this week?
This is the running back I was referring to when I said I'm not going to start him this week. It's Tony Pollard. Like, I'm not chasing that. And it was a really tough Cleveland defense, too, we should add. I'm not chasing it. I mean, you look at the numbers this season, and it's been, terrible for Tony. It's been an underwhelming season for Pollard. This was one of those where you probably watched him perform at this level. I was one of those fantasy managers where I watched this from the bench. I barely got by last week, and I'm looking at Tony Pollard like, why? But at the end of the day, that was the right decision. I'm not chasing this. I'm viewing him as an RB4/flex option, and I would start Woody Marks over him. I would start Jeanty over him. I mean, I would start Ramondre Stevenson over Pollard this week. Like, I don't have any confidence level. I don't think that this game is going to be as competitive as last game was. That's another factor we have to play. The 49ers, run defense kind of in middling. They're not great. They're not, but they're not terrible. I don't love this spot for Pollard. I'm not chasing it here, Ray.
Marsal, fantasyguru.com. The Eagles offense continues to be kind of all over the place. The performance of the team all over the place too, right? I think they're 8-5 now, right? Like, we've seen this before from the Eagles, where it's kind of, where's AJ Brown? Well, AJ Brown's in your face now, right? He's getting 10 targets every week. He's going for 100 yards every week. DeVonta Smith, he's disappearing from the offense because, again, this is not a team that normally they did it last week. This is normally a team that does not throw the ball 40 times. 240 yards is a good passing effort for Hurts, right? That's just not how the offense operates. So if one guy's going for 100 yards every week, then we got a tight end who's sporadically, hitting here and there too in Dallas Goedert. There's just not a lot of meat on the bones, as they say for DeVonta Smith. Where are we now in this matchup with the Raiders? It's going to be tempting for people to say, look, once in 5 games, this guy's hit 50 yards. Do you see it that way? Or should Smith still be starting for people, especially in 3 wide receiver leagues?
I definitely think he should be starting in 3 wide receiver leagues. Like, this kind of reminds me of the A.J. Brown situation earlier in the season where the production wasn't there, but the actual volume was there. If you look at DeVonta Smith over his last 3 games, right? 31, 27, 21. I can even go further back. We have 45, 30, 19, 31, 27, 21. Those are percentages. Those are target share percentages. He's had 9, 7, 5, 11, 8, 8. These are targets. The production is just not following the opportunities here. And that's kind of what we saw early in the season with A.J. Brown, where we kind of echoed that every week where we talked about, hey, keep starting him, keep rolling with. And the same thing here. The Raiders are a bad defense. The only question is how much do they have to pass here this week? So I'm not losing my confidence in Smith because of lack of production. I'm actually less confident in Smith because I don't really know how much the Eagles are going to have to pass in this game against the Raiders. And that's where I'm kind of tempering expectations. But the volume has been there. It's only a matter of time before these players that are good and these players that usually are efficient become efficient again, right? They kind of go through these droughts. And we saw that with Brown. We're seeing that with Smith. It's kind of that situation. We've seen this here numerous times throughout the years in Philadelphia. So for me, I'm viewing Smith as a wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, depending on who your options are. But definitely in a 3 wide receiver setting, would recommend starting him this week.
And to reiterate, he's only had 1 game and 5 of 50 yards, but he's averaged 8 targets a game in those 5, to Armando's point. Armando, let's move on from there. And let's talk about, there are sometimes matchups where it's like, yeah, duh, don't ask. Tight ends against the Bengals, don't ask. The answer is just yes, right? They're historically atrocious against the tight end. Any metric you look at, they're awful. They're just awful against the tight end. The problem this week is that the Ravens have 2 tight ends. Is it Andrews that's going to pop? Is it likely that's going to pop? Do both start regardless because the Bengals stink against tight ends and the Ravens don't have any wide receivers anyway? Talk us through this scenario, Armando.
Yeah, so this is a tricky situation, right? I think you continue to roll with Mark Andrews, but if you've been rolling with him, you understand how Mark Andrews operates. It's touchdown or bust. There's not a high target share. This is not where he's, it's not a high volume situation where he's receiving 7 to 10 targets on a two-week basis. I'm taking the kind of risk with Andrews because of the matchup. And he didn't do, I don't want to say he did great, but he didn't do terrible last game. He had 4 catches there for 47 yards. That'll be serviceable from Mark Andrews, right, this week, I think. And he did have 6 targets. Like last week he struggled, but he also had 5 targets. If he's getting 5 to 6 targets against the Bengals, which I think it's very feasible, I think at the end of the day, the Ravens are going to have to pass, right? Because the Bengals offense with Joe Burrow, they're clicking, they're looking good. It was really brutal to watch last week, them lose that game, but at the end of that game, I think they're going to be able to put points up on the board here against the Ravens. I think they're going to continue to try to win every single game. They're not mathematically out, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's like a very low percentage. So I'm expecting to come out and bounce back here. So because of that, I think they're going to have to throw the ball there in Baltimore. And I think we're going to see Mark Andrews very involved here. 5 to 6 targets, very feasible against this defense. I think good production will come. Likely is more of a high risk, low floor type play. I don't know if I want to go there, right? Outside of tight end premium leagues or maybe very deep leagues, I don't know if I want to go there. I'd rather maybe go with the other guy on the other side, Mike Gesicki. I'm sure we'll talk about him in a minute, but I'd rather maybe take that risk with him if T. Higgins does indeed miss. I know that he's in the concussion protocol. I'd be surprised, I'll be honest with you, if he clears that protocol this week after, being the second time he's in the protocol. Yep. Correct. I thought he was going to be taken out of that game after that first hit in the head, that he kind of you looked at him, you're like, something's not right there. And after that, you can clearly tell there was something not right with him. If he misses, I think Gesicki's an interesting, punt streaming option this week if you're hurting at the position.
So if you had to make the call, which you shouldn't on a Thursday morning, Gesicki over likely
yes,
if T. Higgins is out.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I would feel a little bit better about that. I don't know if I want to trust Likely. Like, you're really hoping for that touchdown, like with Likely. Where I think Gesicki, you're going to get some volume here, if Higgins is out.
Mono Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Let's talk a little Thursday night football, Falcons and Buccaneers. On the Falcons side, you're starting Bijan Robinson. Duh.
Yes.
Kyle Pitts is the top 10 tight end at this point, I think, is the way the offense is, right? So we're starting him. So the question really is not Kirk Cousins. You use him if you have to in a super flex league. Okay. The question really is the receiving core here, right? Because Drake London's been already announced out. Mooney, Sills, Drummond. Go. Anything tonight? Is there a matchup tonight that speaks to you, or it's Thursday again? My opinion is no, because it's Thursday. And it's the playoffs. Like, if you're starting Mooney, Sills, or Drummond, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be starting any of these receivers, right? Like Mooney, wide receiver 5, really? Like, if you're in a deep 16-team league, this is where maybe you're starting 3 receivers plus effects. Like, maybe that's where you're going to start someone like a Mooney. I do expect him to be chasing points here, but I think in most leagues, like the only 2 Atlanta players I'd be interested in starting is Bijan Robinson. And you mentioned Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts for me has become an every week starter with Drake London out. There's just a solidified floor. You don't need the ceiling. You don't need the upside. You just want that weekly floor at a very volatile position. And I think Pitts is providing you that. I think that the big question is, Ray, how do we handle, the wide receivers in Tampa Bay this week? This might be the first time all 3 of them are playing together, Godwin, Igbuka, and Mike Evans this season. So I see that we have, I see we have, questions regarding, are we starting Evans over Igbuka in the chat? I don't necessarily think I'm going to take that path, but I am interested to see how they distribute the football here. I think Buck Irving's in a great position this week against the Falcons there. And I'm going to start Igbuka. Godwin, I'm okay with him. I probably will take the wait and see approach on Mike Evans, assuming he suits up. I'm probably going to take the wait and see approach on him. That might not be the best, approach, but it's the first round of the playoffs for a lot of people. I don't necessarily think I want to take that kind of risk. It probably will be dependent on who, you have on your roster. But again, I don't know if you need to take that risk this week.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here with the Bucks. Left guard Ben Bredesen was placed on the IR, so he's out. It looks like left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who's got the oblique injury, is going to play this week, so that's a positive. But still, they're losing a lineman. Baker Mayfield hasn't looked great, and he certainly hasn't produced good numbers here of late. As Armando noted, it's totally different when you have your top 3 wide receivers on the field, especially when one of those wide receivers, Mike Evans, is going to the Hall of Fame. Like, it's a big difference here. It is. I mean, you look at 4 of the last 5 games, 5 of the last 6 games. 5 of the last 6 games. I can't even count 6 of the last 7 games. Like, look at his fact number. 6 of the last 7 games Baker Mayfield has played, he's had 0-1 touchdown after that hot start to the season. So this is a dicey scenario. I think that the Evans one is the most complicating factor here. I agree that I would personally go Evans, Igbuka, Godwin in that order. But the Evans thing, he had a hamstring injury. He's not young. Hamstring injuries can reoccur. He could play 50% of the snaps and they utilize him in the red zone and still score a touchdown and pay off. But, it's one of those scenarios that you've had Evans, you've waited all this time. Really hard not to start him, but it is the fantasy playoffs for most people, Armando.
Yeah, it is, right? And that's why I think it really depends on your options, right? Like, it depends on who you have. It depends on your roster. It depends on all that. I'm much more like I try not to take risks, like when I don't need to, right? Unless I need to, I try not to take risks in these kind of situations, right? So I'm looking for probably the higher floor in this playoff because at the end of the I don't think you need a seeding, right? You're just trying to beat another opponent. So the thing is, it's a Thursday night game, so it is difficult. Right. I would probably look into betting some props in Mike Evans instead if you want. If you don't play him, that way you get exposure. If you're playing the DFS showdown tonight, I think that's another way to get invested in him. in season long for me, man, I am a little bit hesitant. I'm not saying you cannot start him. I'm looking. I just pulled up the rankings, and he is the highest ranked on the weekly ranking. So I always suggest trust the rankings. He's wide receiver 22, so as a wide receiver, 2 there. I'm okay with. I'm okay with if you roll it. I personally, for me, it's going to depend on who I have and who I'm choosing him over, and that's really what it is. I do tend to be a little bit conservative in these instances, though.
Any concern with Bucky Irving tonight? He's the lead back. He's obviously the guy to utilize in the backfield. Moderate success since he's returned. Got that matchup tonight against Atlanta, who's kind of mid-level against the running back. Any concerns with him? Still top 20? Who cares?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would even venture to say
RB1?
top 12. Top 12.
Okay. Yep.
Top 12 running back this week.
Okay.
The volume has been there for him since returning. This is a good matchup. I think we're gonna play with a lead here. I like him.
The last 6 weeks, the Falcons 5 rushing touchdowns and a 4.6 yards per carry. So those are, again, good marks.
They're not good.
They're not good.
They're not a good defense right now.
They're not. Mayfield or Cousins, if you had to choose one, is it Mayfield easily, or is it closer than it should be? Like if you had to choose one of the quarterbacks.
No, Mayfield. I was going to say if you wanted to talk about Mayfield or Love, because I think that's a tough one, right?
Go ahead if you want. I talked about Love earlier.
I would go Mayfield over Love because of the matchup here. But I do think they're both top 15, top 16 this week. So I view them both as like mid-level QB1s, QB2s, high-end QB2s kind of players this week, depending on your league size. So for me, I would slightly go Mayfield over Love. I've been targeting this Falcons secondary and this Falcons defense for quite some time now, especially in DFS where we talk about that. But in season long as well, you keep targeting this defense. So he's going to have his supporting cast here. I know that the offensive line is of concern here, but he's going to have, at least as far as the pass catchers are concerned, the full supporting cast is expected to be out there tonight. So that's a good thing for him. He has Bucky Irving obviously back. So for the first time this, outside of the offensive line, the weapons here for Baker Mayfield are all fully healthy. And I think this is one of those games. This is an important game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? They're right now leading their division, but they're tied. They have the same record as the Panthers, and the Panthers play the Saints this week. And so I think this is a must win for the Bucs. I expect Baker to come out there and play some of his best football here tonight. These are the kind of moments he's made for. So I am pretty big on Mayfield this week.
By the way, on the defensive side of things, officially Trey Henderson was placed on the injured reserve list. Yeah. We've known that's the direction this is going. This is obviously not knock on the way he or the team hoped for after the contract and the whole thing. But another story here that we've got on the defensive side of thing, it's been reported by Adam Schefter, who's also mentioned in the chat room. TJ Watt is currently in the hospital. And obviously we all know who TJ Watt is and his importance for the Steelers and all that. Currently in the hospital for further medical evaluation of his lung after experiencing discomfort at the practice facility on Wednesday. Might be nothing. They play on Monday against the Dolphins, but that's the whole complexion of a team defense changes when you lose a guy like TJ Watt, if that happens, Armando.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a critical part of that defense, and his ability to rush the passer and create pressure and everything he does. It stops the timing and disrupts timing, and that disrupts the play. It's just like a snowball effect when you have a player like that. And we've seen it in the past, right? When he's not playing, when he's been hurt, their ability to get to the quarterback is not as good when he's on the field. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I still think that, the defense is good enough here in this instance. Miami, the offensive line has their issues. So I still think Pittsburgh will be fine here. But it's definitely, not only for this week, but something to monitor, moving forward, because if it's something that's a little bit more serious than anticipated and it drags out beyond this week, it's definitely going to be a problem for the Steelers, who are hanging on for their dear life in that division. So, something to definitely keep an eye on.
Jay Main asked a question about the running back position. I talked earlier about Tyrone Tracy. He's got the hip injury. Looks like he's going to play this week. He practiced in full yesterday. We've got Quinshon Judkins. What's the question here? Tracy or Judkins? Main is trying to not blow his chance as the number 1 seed here. 2 guys, it's like you want to say Judkins just because, right? But it's like Judkins, it's kind of the same Woody Marks thing. It's 18 touches. It's 71 yards. It's like, well, he's only scoring touchdowns out of the Wildcat. The offense isn't very good. Judkins, Tracy, obvious answer, or is this one really close?
I'm going to go with Judkins. Yeah, I'm going to go with Judkins here because he's not going to split the workload with anyone, right? And Singletary has been involved there. They utilize both running backs. I understand like Judkins' production hasn't been there, but I'm okay with running him against the Bears here. I think they're a team that could be susceptible to the running back position. So I'm okay with him. Again, you're tempering expectation. You're chasing volumes is what you're doing. I think there is a clearer path for Judkins to see 20 opportunities than there is for Tracy.
Philip Rivers. And he saw a video of Philip Rivers. Right. Now, to be fair, I can look pretty good throwing 15-yard passes too in practice, just to put it out there. But your thoughts? I gave my thoughts earlier in this week when the whole situation came down. It looks like Leonard's going to be the quarterback this week. We don't know that for certain. It hasn't been officially announced. There's a chance that Philip Rivers is the quarterback this week. There's a chance he's a quarterback for the team next week. You're not buying this?
Listen, Rick, I was watching this video, and my back started hurting watching him throw that football. I'm like, dude, that guy looks like he's stiff. Like, he does not look like he's ready to play any football.
Hasn't he always kind of looked
it'd be insane to start him against Seattle's pass rush, by the way.
Right?
It'd be insane.
For the team, not even just fantasy, for the team to actually do it would be insane.
Yeah, it's a liability, really.
Yeah.
It is a liability. Look, I'm not buying it. I would, for football, I would love to see it, right? I'm rooting for him to be successful. I'm not investing in him to be successful though, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's an emotional thing, not a financial. Like, so your fantasy leagues, that's a financial investment. Don't risk your money on Philip Rivers. You could attach yourself, emotional. Oh yeah, great, good for him. Root for the guy. But man, I'm not going to be invested. Not even in 2 quarterback leagues, super flex leagues, and I'm okay being wrong if I am at the end of this. But man, you're asking a 44-year-old grandpa to come out there and play a football. Do they still have to play the Texans again?
I think they do. Let me pull that up as we're talking.
I think they have to play the Texans one more time, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe they don't.
Week
but
18. Week 18.
Yeah, there's no way. Like, no. Ray, those are too bad. Like, see, if you play them in week 16, 17. I haven't looked at their schedule that far yet, but if you play in week 16, 17, assuming they're not going to be as tough of matchups, you cannot play them this week. You definitely cannot play them against Houston. It doesn't make sense here, Ray. I'm not buying it. But I will say I saw something on Tyler Warren. So can we quickly hit on that? And I know we've exceeded the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we have Warren, guys, I'm still going to start him. Regardless of who's under center. For me, he's talented enough. You just have to lower expectations and temper expectations. But I'm not going to drop Tyler Warren or cut Tyler Warren to pick up, a Juwan Johnson or anything like that. Yes, maybe Juwan Johnson is seeing a little bit more consistency in the target volume, and maybe you're a little bit more comfortable with this quarterback situation than you are with Tyler Warren. But I'm still going to stick it out with Tyler Warren. Like, he is an elite talent, and he's going to make the best of his opportunities, in my opinion. So I've seen those questions already. Oh, should I stash a second? No, I'm not stashing a second tight end. I'm not going to drop Warren. I'm going to continue rolling him out the rest of the way. And that's going to be my playoff path with, Tyler Warren. I did want to say that because I know we've gotten some questions, and anyone that had any, uncertainty, I did want to clarify that.
And for Angelo, who says, old people rule George Blanda forever. For those people that don't know who George Blanda is, I brought this up on the SiriusXM show a couple weeks ago. George Blanda is in the Hall of Fame. He had 236 touchdown passes in his career as a quarterback. And he also holds the all-time NFL record for extra points made and attempted. Yeah. Kicker and quarterback. He's in the Hall of Fame. Go George Blanda. Isn't that amazing? A quarterback actually holds the all-time record for field goal extra points made. Pretty impressive.
That is pretty fun. That is pretty funny.
It's also, he played 26 years as well. Pretty amazing. Let's go, Philip Rivers. You got a long way to go, bro.
Philip Rivers saw Matthew Stafford catching up in the all-time yardage. He's like, I can't let him catch up.
Can't pull out of the top 12 list. Armando Marsal of FantasyGuru.com joins us on Tuesdays. He'll be back with us next Tuesday. Because you're on Thursday this week, your schedule for what people have to expect slightly different this week. I saw you posted the pick'ems for the staff here earlier today. What else you got coming down here in the next couple of 24 hours or what have you?
Yeah, so yesterday I posted the snap and usage report there, so check that out. I already posted the weekly staff picks. The defense versus position charts have been updated. That can be found on the site as well. Later this afternoon, the Red Zone Report will be live. Tomorrow, the Mind of Marsal podcast will be live as well. And then Sunday morning or Sunday noon. So it's not really morning. I get on in the morning and go live in the afternoon. It's a weird thing, right? But Sunday noon Eastern, I'll be on with Chris Rose. We break down the entire DFS slate. And of course, you can find me in Discord answering questions between now and then for sure Sunday morning, 11:30 all the way to 1 p.m. Myself, you, the entire staff in there answering start-sit questions. So make sure you're checking all of that out. And like you pointed, look at that all-in NFL plan. I'm watching it. Everyone, hopefully you've seen that all-in NFL plan. Take advantage of that. There's so much good content on the site.
There is, and as we talked about earlier, it's down to $49.99. So get in, send that email to support@fantasyguru.com. Said you heard it here. It's all the college football, all the NFL football, the rest of the way. DFS, betting, seasonal, all the coverage. We got all the articles, all the rankings, all the chats, all the Discord stuff, all the live streams, all of it, including the great work by Armando Marsal. And remember, if you click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page over at fantasyguru.com, you can find this show cataloged, the old episodes. You can also find Armando's show, Mind of Marsal, there as well. Armando, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again next Tuesday. Have a great week, and cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me on. Good luck to everyone this week.
He's Armando Marsal. I'm Ray Flowers. I'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Russell Clay. Until then, enjoy your Thursday night football. And don't forget to tune into SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio for the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans. That is Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Armando, I'm Ray. Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FG.